Well, good afternoon. My name is Nancy Dunn. I am the Senior Director for Client Consulting and Strategy on the Group Health Account. And in the CBRE world, that means lease administration, transaction management, and strategy. Outside of the CBRE world, I have a bucket list. And on my bucket list is a goal to do a walk, a hike, or a climb on every continent. And I'm about a little over halfway through with that goal, and I wanted to share that with you. I have had the opportunity, of course, to walk and hike in North America, and the one I'm using for my bucket list is a hike on the Hermit Trail down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, where it was very hot, it was very dry, there was no drinking water, there was no shade. It was a miserable trip from the physical sense, but it was beautiful. The sunrises were gorgeous, and the river, the green color and the fast-flowing nature of it was awesome. In Europe, I've done quite a bit of hiking in the French and the Swiss Alps, which is a very luxurious way to hike because you can ride a chairlift, a cog railway, or you could ride a gondola with about 50 of your other friends to all these observation points, and then you leisurely hike back down to the village. And if you're lucky, you can find the town or village, or the town hamlet, I guess it's called, of Zermatt, where you can sit in the terrace underneath the Matterhorn and have Linzer Tort. And in Asia, I have had the opportunity to go on a long trek. My husband is a mountain climbing guide, but he was on an expedition to climb Kanchenjunga, which is the second highest peak in the world. So I joined others on a 200-mile trek to the base camp of Kanchenjunga. And we started in the Kathmandu area and took a couple of weeks to get to the base camp. It was a wonderful experience. We hiked through rice fields, rhododendron forest, bamboo forest, over bridges that would scare the death out of you, but it also was a wonderful experience. What I really want to share with you is a trip that I took this last January with my husband to Africa when we went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. My husband, as the mountaineering guide, was leading the trip, and we began in the town of Moshi in Tanzania. And every group that climbs Kilimanjaro is assigned local guides to lead your trip. So we had 7 local Chaga guides who met us and weighed our duffel bags to make sure that they were under the weight limit that the porters would carry. We started our adventure at 6,000 feet at the Machami Gate of Kilimanjaro National Park, where our guides hired 40 porters to carry all the group and personal gear. Our first day was 4,000 feet in elevation, and that to me is like climbing Mount Si. It's a 2-hour trip to the top, but no, not at all. It was, I think, about 10,000 feet of total elevation gain because we were traversing the side of the mountain, and we went up one ridge, down the backside, up another ridge, down the backside. We were exhausted by that day. But we spent a good 5 days and 5 nights at elevations above 12,000 to 15,000 feet, letting our bodies acclimatize. We hiked through 6 different vegetation zones, starting in a jungle and ending up in a very barren and rocky landscape. Our summit day began at midnight, and the temperatures was in the mid-teens, so we dressed very warmly in layers. We had headlamps so that we could see where we were going. We had hand warmers, we had warmers in our boots, and we started off hiking the 3,500 feet up to the crater rim of Kilimanjaro. To aid us in gaining the elevation, we would do the rest step. You would take 1 step forward, and that forward leg, you would put all your weight on and have very little weight on your back leg, which would let it rest. You would then bring the back leg forward and let the other leg go back and take a rest. And we would repeat this all the way to the top. We also would pressure breathe, and this is really pushing air out of your lungs to bring more air in, as when you're between that elevation of 15,000 and 19,000 feet, there's very little oxygen to give you the energy that you need. So you would hear everybody going like this. And you had to get over how crazy that sounded because you knew it was really beneficial for you. So it took us 6 hours to get from 15,500 feet up to the crater rim, which was just under 19,000 feet. Right near the top, the sun came out. It was beautiful. At the crater rim, we were able to drop our packs, wait for the group to all get together, take a summit picture, and then hike another half mile and 500 feet up in elevation to the true summit. From the true summit, we went back to our camp at 15,000 feet, picked up our backpacks, and then hiked down to 10,000 feet. So that particular day, we were on our feet for about 18 hours. It was a strenuous but very rewarding day because we know that we had made it to the summit of Kilimanjaro. The next day, we flew on a plane into the middle of the Serengeti Desert and boarded open-top Range Rovers and went on a safari for several days through the Serengeti and also into the Ngorongoro crater. The animals that we saw were amazing. We saw the elephants, giraffes, the lions, the zebras, things that you would expect. But we saw Cape buffalo, we saw warthogs, there were condors and hippos. It was an amazing experience and one that I'll never forget. The trip was over officially after the safari. We flew to the island of Zanzibar, where we spent a few days on the Indian Ocean just beaching it in the sun. So I have 3 continents left to conquer. In the summer of 2014, I'll be heading to Peru to hike the Inca Trail and visit the ruins of Machu Picchu. After that, it's a trip to Australia and to hike to their highest peak, which is only 7,000 feet, and you reach it by a dirt trail. My final continent will be going down to Antarctica. I'm looking forward to riding on the little icebreakers and seeing the icebergs floating in the water and hiking along the shores of South Georgia Island amongst the penguins. After I take that trip, I'll be able to cross off that adventure in my bucket list. So thank you for joining me on my adventure, and I look forward to hearing yours.